Shalom, and welcome back to Bnei Noach Academy, Thoughts on the Torah. Please remember to hit the like button and to subscribe, and most importantly, to share this wisdom and inspiration with friends and family. So, Jews the world over will be celebrating the festival of Shavuot on Friday, May 26th. And in the diaspora, also on Saturday, on the Sabbath, May 27. Now, on May 26, we have the official Torah reading is the Ten Commandments. We read the story of how they arrived at Mount Sinai and how they experienced hearing and seeing godliness, hearing God's voice deliver the Ten Commandments. And then, of course, they heard the words where God says to Moses, now you stay here with me and I will give you the rest of the story. Now, one of the many, many, many miracles that took place at this fantastic event is it says that God's voice was so loud and booming, but there was no echo. What does this mean? What is the significance of this? Now, we know there's a rule. The rule is, and this rule is stated in the Talmud, and it's a logical one. It makes sense. Quote, God does not make any miracles in vain. In other words, every time God performs a miracle, there is a purpose. Typically, the purpose is to show us, not only to show us God's greatness, but to teach us something, to have us glean something, a lesson in life of how to serve God. Or there has to be a purpose in the meaning, in the plan of everything. What would be the meaning in this miracle? God's voice was so booming loud, and yet there was no echo. You want to tell me it didn't bounce off the mountains or the far edges of the forest? That's what would typically happen when there is a loud booming voice. What would be the reason? Well, the answer is we need to take a deeper look as to what exactly is the meaning, the purpose of what took place at Mount Sinai. You see, according to all accounts, the Jewish people, and not just the Jewish people, not just this tribe which begins with Abraham, but even the rest of the world, those who were interested, were fairly aware and knowledgeable about godliness. Many, many aspects of the Torah, everybody already had access to. In other words, when God came on Mount Sinai and said, breaking news, it wasn't like they heard something they never heard before. In fact, just the mitzvah of Shabbat, the commandment which instructs them to observe the Sabbath, that wasn't new to them. They'd already officially received that commandment not too long after the splitting of the sea, after they left Egypt. What was the purpose of this whole entire event? Well, the sages tell us that prior to the official giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai, there was, quote, a separation. There was a tear. There was a rift, so to speak, between the upper worlds and the lower worlds, between the spirit and the matter. Spirituality and the physical matter of the world could not mix. It's like oil and water. They can have an appearance sometimes that they mix, but let it sit for a while and the oil will rise to the top. It will separate. Because they're inherently two opposite things. This is spirit and this is matter. However, God created the world, and his desire was, and therefore he designed this world this in accordance with this desire, that the two should mix, and that we, through our observance of his desires, of his wants, of his commandments, we should elevate the matter of the world and permeate it with his holiness. Thus, when God came down on Mount Sinai, this action was meant to bring down, symbolically, bring down holiness into the world and begin this process, begin this journey of the spirit, of the spiritual mixing with the matter, mixing with the physical, with the material. If the sound would have bounced off some of the matter, what would that be indicative of? That the sound had not permeated. Well, the whole purpose of the giving of the Torah is that every single aspect of holiness can permeate and shall permeate and will permeate every single aspect of the physical world. Thus, this is not just a miracle in vain. This is actually not even a miracle. This is a natural result of the purpose intended with God coming down on Mount Sinai, that everything in the world becomes permeated with God's word, with the words of the Torah, with God's desire.